Yud. Here the Psukim talk about Yehuda and Tamar. And it says after his wife passed away, and Tamar already had left because she first was married to two sons of Yehuda, and they both died. She left back to her father's house. And then the Pasuk says, I read the Pasuk, not this Pasuk, the first Pasuk. Pasuk Yudei says, Vayirba Hayomim, the days passed, Vatomas Bashu Eshetu, Vayinochem Yehuda, Yehuda to comfort after his wife died, Vayal al Gezes Etzeine Hu V'chiro Le'eu Adelomi Ham Timnoso. That way Rashi explains here, what the Pasuk says, that he went up to Timnah, that Yehuda went up to Timnah, to be there when they share the sheep of his, to be there to watch. Rashi says, Lamed al Gezes, Vayal al Gezes, Rashi says, Vayal Timnos, he went up to Timnah. Then the next pasuk says, "Vayugad leSomar leimer." It was told to Somar. People told Tamar, saying, "Hine chamich eila Timnosa lagesene." Behold, your father-in-law is going up to Timnah to shear his tzain. So she went and made up a plan how to meet him, etc., etc. That's the pasuk. So the Rebbe is going to talk about the second pasuk. So the Pirusha ala pasuk Vayugad Tamar, the Tamar became it, and the second pasuk where we said that it was told to Tamar that etc. And what's the etc.? That he's going up to Timno. Maitik Rasha Ateve, from that posik, Rasha quotes the words Eilo Timnosa. It says she went up to Timno. Mefarash Rasha explains like this. Basically, Rasha asks Akasha. Later on in Tanakh, by Shimshon it says, by Yeret Shimshon became at Timnosa. The Chader Shimshon went down to Timno. So here it says it went up. There it says it went down. And there's this Chura, it's Timno, the same city. So was it high up in the mountain or was it down in the valley that you go down? In our postik, his mashmit was going up, and there it says he's coming down. Rashi answers, it was the middle of the slant of the mountain. It was the middle of the mountain, the middle of the slant of the mountain. If you go from one side, you'll be going up. You could go from up down because the city's in the middle of the mountain. So sometimes if you go from one side, you're going down. If you go from the other side, from the lower part, from the even part, and you're going up to the mountain of Timnah, you're going up because it was in the middle. This Rashi answers the stira. So Rebbe said, you have to understand like this. This contradiction from the word that says by Shimshon Vayered, what Rashi is coming here to answer, this question comes up on the previous pasuk. Shagam Shom Nemer Vayal the game at Timnos. So the previous pasuk, as I read before, it says that he went up to Timnos, and it says in the order that Rashi says that the Vayal goes on Timnah, on the city, because the other Mefarshim, like the Ibn Ezra, learns that Vayal doesn't go on him going up. It means going up to see the sheep, how they shear the sheep. But Rashi learns Vayal goes on the Timnah. So Rashi already, the pasuk already said that they were going up to Timnah. Since that's a previous pasuk, he should have said this kasha over there. The first time it says that Elo Vayal Timnosa, Rashi should have asked. Here it says going up, and by Shimshon it says going down to Timnah. So why doesn't Rashi ask it there? Another kasha. Since the derech of Rashi is to explain everything according to pshat, simple pshat. In a way that even a child that just starts learning Chumash should understand it. We understand. Rashi only explains those things. Only things that somebody who learns the pasuk will have a kasha. So all the Rashis are to explain what is not something that's not understood in this pasuk. Rashi's derech is not to explain the pasuk we're learning now. If the pasuk itself is okay, but because there are contradictions from other psukim before him learn it, Rashi doesn't do that. In other words, if Rashi does do it, if Rashi does as a stira, it's usually the second time when you have a pasuk here, which makes sense. Then when you come later on to a pasuk which contradicts, Rashi has to answer it. But when Rashi doesn't answer that kasha before, because in this pasuk, at this moment, there's nothing hard. So therefore, in our case, and since this pasuk itself, there's nothing shver, nothing not understood to the Talmud. Elo she'ef shel ha'akshis olam miposik shatalmud osid l'lamdei. But there is a kasha you could ask from a posik that he will learn in the future in Shaftim, in Tanakh. That's what Rashi is doing. So why does Rashi answer this kasha in this parsha? Where he should have answered it is in Shaftim, where it says that Shimshim down to Timnah. Rashi should say, we already learned that Timnah is going up, but not here. Should only do it over there. When you learned both sukkim already, you learned this post. Now you come to the second post, and now you compare it. And obviously, the Rebbe always says that the Talmud must be a good head. The Rashi has written Talmud that remembers everything, so he remembers the sukkim. So he has a good kasha. So Rashi over there should say it, but Rashi over here has no reason to, because in this post there's nothing hard. Third kasha. We know that Rashi is meduyik to every detail. So why does Rashi have to? The Ma'irif or Leimer, he says, Ubeshimshon Heimer. When he asks the contradiction, he asks that by Shimshon it says, Vayeret Shimshon Timnosa. L'chura ein zel es fas yeser. L'chura, this seems to be extra. Me'ach asher Rasha batzam maybe Loshen HaKos of Vayeret Shimshon. Rasha brings that posik. And in that posik it says, Vayeret Shimshon. Ubezeh hare yidu alone b'mi ve'if enemer Loshen Yividazu. So from that we already know where this posik is written that you're going down to Timnah. Or your master would have been enough. He would say simple, very short. He would have said like this. Here it says, and it says another pasuk Shimshon went down. So besides the kasha, why is he asking the stira here? That's a different problem. But even if he is asking the stira here, why does he have to mention that by Shimshon it says? In other words, if the pasuk wouldn't say Vayeret Shimshon, if you wouldn't bring that pasuk, then maybe Rashi would have to say where it says, because we don't know where the pasuk is. Rashi can't just say some other place it says Vayeret Timnosa. I mean, maybe he could, but it's not so poshut because you wouldn't know where to find other pasuk. But since Rashi quotes the pasuk where it says Vayeret Shimshon, so we know it's Yerida. So why does Rashi have to start off by saying Ubeshimshon Naimer? By Shimshon, he says we know it's by Shimshon. So then the Rebbe continues. Concerning this kasha, Sheloshedes Aksuvim. This kasha that Rashi asks here, that when the city of Timnah is a contradiction of Psukim, the Gemara asks the Shaila, actually. But Sine Gemara Gimel Terutzim. The Gemara in Seita gives 3 Terutzim to this kasha. Number 1 teretz is Shimshon Shenis Ganabo, Shimshon, that when he went to Timnah, he was embarrassed with it, which means Girish Rasha says, Shenosam Hibleis Plishtim Asurisla. He married daughters of Plishtim, which he was not allowed. So since going to Timnah caused that, Ksiv Vayeride. So there it says Vayeret, which means that the word Vayeret doesn't mean physically going down. Vayeret means he was going down in matzav, in situation, in status, in ruchnius. And Yehuda, Shenis Alabo, Yehuda, when he came to Timnah, he went up. Upirish Rasha says, Shemishom Neildu Peretz V'Zerach Shemidim Lochim Nevim Yisrael. That when he went to Timnos, he met her, Tamar, and from that came Peretz and Zerach and kings and Neviim came. He had an aliyah when he went there. So the Gemara gives one answer basically that by Shimshon, Vayeret doesn't mean he went down physically, he went down in Ruchnius to Timnos. And by Yehuda, he went up in Ruchnius. That's one teretz the Gemara gives. Another teretz, Shteitim Noisayim. There were 2 Timnos. One was on a mountain that you had to go up, and one was in a valley that you had to go down. So there are 2. And the Rebbe actually in the order 9 brings that we do find actually that there were 2. One was in the Chelik of Yehuda, one was in the Chelik of Don, and they were the 2 cities. So no problem. And the Gemara answers, one was up and one was down. The third teretz is Chona Timna. No, we're talking about the same Timna. One. The Osem HaHaigis Yerida, the Osem HaHaigis Eli. If you come from one side, it has to be going down, which means it was in the middle of the mountain. If you're coming from the top of the mountain, to get to Timnos, you have to come down, because it's in the middle of the mountain. If you go from the other side, from the floor, you got to go up. And that's basically the teretz, the pshat that Rashi brings, the third pshat. Now, based on this Gemara, we could ask Rashi another kasha. Why did Rashi pick the third teretz of the Gemara? Why is it better than the previous teretzim? The other 2 you could also say in pshat. When the Rebbe in the Orah 9 says what the pshat, the other 2 you could say in pshat. The first teretz where it says that it means Beruchnius, which means you read the lav dafke means physically. It means in matzav, in situation, he went up and down. Rasha brings it many times. Rasha brings this idea that Vayeret could mean going down in matzav. It could be aliyah going up in matzav. We find that. So if Rasha brings it in different places, a simon that in derech pshat you could say it. The second pshat where it says two timnes avada, you could say it's a very easy teretz. It's very simple. It could be two cities, the same name. Especially that we do find actually that they were talking two cities. So why does Rasha not give any of those truths when he fixed the third teretz that it was in the middle of the mountain and you had to go up from one side and go down to the other side? Ubifrat, especially the fact that the first truths, the other two truths are before this last teretz, is mashman that they're closer to the what the meaning of the pasuk seems to say than the third one, because that's why they're first. And the Rebbe the Ora says that even though in Gemara, the Gemara is not a derech pshat. So in Rasha, the Rebbe always says if it's a first pshat, it means it's closer to the pasuk because it's closer to the pshat because Rasha is pshat. But the Gemara is not pshat pshat mikra. The Gemara is drush remes. But the Rebbe says still it's understood that anything that fits more to the pasuk, the Gemara would bring it faster, even though it's derech hadrush. In Kain Eidei said to Mos, and now the kasha is more. Dafke Rasha, Mafarash of the Pshuta Shemikra, Dafke Rasha, who says everything of Pshuta Shemikra, maybe Madiv Satirit Sachen brings the last teretz, which seems to be the least connection. It's Mashram thing to the simple pshat of the pasuk. And nevertheless, Rasha chose this pshat. So he's asking Bechlal, why is this pshat better? Even just looking at the pshatim, especially that they're better, they seem to be better because the Gemara brings them first. Sabir, because the answer goes like this. The Pirusha Shorasha la pasuk shel fanenu. When Rasha explains this pasuk, he's not interested mainly to answer the contradiction. That by Yehuda it says the word Eila, and it's contradiction for the Loshen Vayeret B'Shimshon. The Loshen B'Shimshon. That's not what Rashi is mainly interested. Why? Like he said before, the Talmud who learns this Rashi has no idea that there's a contradiction because he didn't learn the other pasuk yet. So this is not mainly what Rashi is trying to say. There is a question that Rasha has on the words themselves in this pasuk. When it says Eila Timnosa is going to Timnot, Rasha has a kasha. The kasha is like this: Why does the pasuk when it says he went to Timnah say he was up? Like this, there's no problem. Let's say up means there's a mountain, so you have to go up. But why is it important that you have to go up to Timnah? Why does the pasuk pick that? Kloimer means like this. Loma medayik akosif. Why does the pasuk medayik? Who got let Tomar that they told Tomar kichameho eila timnosa that your father-in-law is going up to Timnah. V'chiesh eisan afkusa leteichen asipu makes a difference to the story that they told him that he's coming, whether they told her he's going up or not. After my daughter came, it could be it's going. It could be it's a city that you have to go up to the mountain. But why would they mention it? Is there any difference? Makes any difference that they would tell her, that he's going up. It's not going down. The Beirich Misha are going straight. Maybe, what difference does it make? As we find, that the terech of the Torah is not to explain the style of going, how you were going, if you're not, it's not important. You don't need it. The Torah doesn't mention it. Here's an example. We find that Leibel b'Pashas Akeda earlier Chumash, because whatever is written earlier in Rashi or Chumash, the Talmud knows, so that we could refer to. The Akeda Shulchan Talmud learned it already. It says there like this: Hakadosh Baruch Hu Omer Avram, Hashem said to Avram, Kachnas binchas yichitcha v'haleyu v'gemer al achat hahorim. Take him up to one of the mountains. Now, when it says take him up to the mountains. So some people would think Bahaleyu means bring him up as a korban. Bahaleyu doesn't go on going up to the mountain. But the Rebbe here brings, if you look in Rashi teaches that the Eibusha said to him, Bahaleyu, bring him up to the mountain, but not that didn't mean Alei bring him up as a korban. So there, the Torah says, bring him up to the mountain. Ubekolze, and still, then it says later in the Posik, Vayelech elamokim. It says he went to the place, but Leibel doesn't say Vayal. And then it says, they came to the place. Even though they were going up. They were talking Haramariya, where they took him to the kid, it was going up. It doesn't say. The reason is very simple. What difference does it make how he got there? to go up, you have to go up or now. The Torah doesn't tell us is how the trip was if it's not negated to the Inyan. See, the fact that in the Posik Bahaleyu, to the one in the mountains, the Rebbe says in the order 14, why does the Posik say there, what's negated, take him up to the mountain? The Rebbe says there it has to say. Since he wants to tell him it's a mountain, go to Al-Achat HaHorim, so then when you say go, when someone says go to the mountain, how do you speak? Go up to the mountain. Because we're telling you where to go to a mountain, up to the mountain. But when we're telling you go, it happens to be that you're going on a mountain. Would we have to tell you got to go up? And therefore, so here too, since there is no specific reason why to tell that he was going up, that Yehuda was going up to Timnos, how the Leibel b'loshen stomis. That by Yugat the Tomar heard, they would tell her that your father-in-law Heilich Timnos is going to Timnos, and she's going to find him on the way. Okay, Yitzhak is another lashon. Why is it important for the Torah to write Eila? Because the word Eila seems to be telling us something. In other words, you see, sometimes the shaila is on the posik. Why does it say extra words? It could have said bekitzer. Here it's not like that. Heilach and Eila would be the same amount of letters, is the same. But Heilach is the standard lashon. If I tell you go someplace, go. Or I tell you someone is coming. Eila is already going up, saying something specific. So normally the standard lashon would be say, if it's not negeya, how you going? Go. He's going, or you go. Why would we special go up? Even though the pale is going up, but that's not the standard lashon. But if I stress the word that he's going up, that means that there is something special in the idea that he's going up. But the question is here, well, what's so special about going up? All they told her that he's coming to Timnos and go meet him there, whatever you want to do. So therefore, Rasha has a kasha. So it's not that bothering Rasha, the stira. Rasha has the posik Eila Timnos, he has a problem. And Rasha doesn't write the kasha. Like Rasha usually does not. Rasha usually does not write what the kasha is. Rasha, when he brings the posik and he teaches, in most cases, he doesn't bring the kasha. After you read the Rasha, you figure out yourself what the kasha was. So here Rasha doesn't write this. This kasha is something that you can figure out yourself. There's a problem here. Why does the posik say Eila? Now this will explain why Rasha didn't ask the shayla on the previous posik, where it also says Vayal Timnosa. Omnam b'posik hakaydem lezen, the posik before Avshagam beinam Vayal Timnosa. There it also says he went to Timnos. So it says he went up. So there is no kasha. Over there we could say there when it says that the Torah is telling us that what he did, he went up to Timnos. The Torah means he went to a place where he had an aliyah beruchnius. B'chshivas, Mailas HaNefesh, he became choshev. We could do that. Had we touched that when the Torah says he went up to Timnos, means he went up in Madrege, it's no contradiction to Pshat. Someone might think that's not Pshuta Shemikra. He went up means he went up. No, in Pshat we will find going up means Beruchnis. That a Betchilas Aparsha Nemar, and here it especially makes sense. In the beginning of this portion of the Torah, it says, Vayered Yehuda Meisechov. Yehuda went down from his brothers. It means he left his brothers. Pirush Rasha Bepashtas Pirush. Rasha in the simple Pshat says, what does it mean he went down? Sheheridu Echov Migdolose. That the brothers lowered him from his greatness. In other words, he was before that the king of the brothers. And after they sold Yosef and they saw how their father was so upset, and it was Yehuda's idea to sell, they lowered him in his madrege. Yeride beruchnius. And Rashi teaches the pshat vayered Yehuda pushed. Even the simple pshat vayered means he went down in physically. No, Rashi says not. Now, it would make sense that as a continuation to that he went down in his madrege. So now it says V'yal, he went up Lalamdeinu to teach Shabbat the Chosel Timna, going to Timna. By the Maisa Tomash and Isteva Bezeh and the story of Tomar that came out of it, Chosav and Yisala. V'yal, he went back up Beruchnius. Like the Gemara says that. Why does it say V'yal? Because he went to Beruchnius. So the previous pasuk where it says V'yal, Rasha has no kasha. Why the Torah stresses V'yal? Torah wants to tell you when the Beruchnius. Omnam Zeh Yitoch, and this only will fit Ragam Bakush Nemer V'yal. In the previous passage where it says Vayal B'Loshen Nister. Loshen Nister means like a third party, but derech shlishi hamedaber, like a third one when you talk about somebody. It's the Torah talking to us about, so it's like a third. There's the Torah telling us what Yehuda did. So the Torah is telling us what he did. The Torah knows the Torah could tell you he went up to Timna, because the Torah knows that this brought later in Aliyah in his Madregah, like the Gemara says, he had tzaddikim, children, etc., etc. So the Torah could do that. So when the Torah tells us about Yehuda, so the Torah is telling us, so the Torah tells us physically things what he did, and the Torah tells us what happened Baruch. By this posik, the next posik, Shenemar, by there it says that people told Tamar, your father-in-law is going up to Timnah. There the Torah is repeating what someone told her. Not talking about somebody of the Torah talking about. The Torah is telling us, you know what people told her? And the Torah is quoting the statement of what the people told Tamar. The Torah is telling us the nusach, the lashon, the expression that the people used when they told this to Tamar. Here you can't say that that guy who told Tamar that Yehuda is going to Timna meant Aliyah Ruchni Shel Yehuda Basi, that in the future he'll have an Aliyah. What do you think the guy in the city there knew what's going to happen later, that he meant an Aliyah Baruchni? If so, because of this, on this pasuk there's a kasha. In the case of the kasha that we asked before, why it says Eila when he went to Timna, what's the that he was going up? It came and made us, that's where the kasha comes. So this answer we asked before, why does Rashi explain this on this part, not on the previous one? The previous one is no kasha. Previous they could learn very simple. The Torah says he went up, and Timna, the Torah is telling us, yes, he had an Aliyah Baruchnis. It's no problem. So you can't ask a kasha why Bashimshin says Vayeshev. But now that we're saying in this pasuk, we're repeating, the Torah is repeating what the people said. So here we have a kasha. The people don't know this, that they had an Aliyah Baruchnis. Now someone might ask at this point, I'm just saying a kasha that people might ask, but if the Torah is quoting what the people said to her, maybe the people said it. They didn't mean anything Baruchnis, they meant Gashmi. So they were not so, when people talk, you think they're careful in every word, so Meduyik. The whole kasha is in the Torah with everything is Meduyik. Why do you stress Aliyah? But what people speak, so the Torah is quoting what people spoke, what people told her, so they use the Lashon Eila. Happened to be going up there, whatever. So what's the problem? Why can't we say that that's the, and you don't need a reason why they said Eila. But I understand that even the Torah quotes what people say, the Torah will only take out the words of what they say, what's Negeya. I'm sure when they spoke to it, they didn't say just these words and that's all. They said, they didn't say a word before. I'm sure they said there, he's coming, all kinds of. And the Torah picks only those words which are Negeya to know, but it's quoting them. So if the Torah said this, and I'm sure they said, going up, he's going, why would Torah pick the word Eila? Asim, the Torah is trying to tell us there's something there. And you can't say that the reason is because that's what they spoke. And you can't say the reason is because Aliyah Baruchni is, because that for sure they didn't have in mind. And we're talking about what they said to her. And the Torah is Medayiga, this is what they said to her. That's what Rashi has a kasha. So to answer this kasha, that's what Rashi brings in the contradiction. Not that Rashi is bothered by the contradiction here. So in order to answer the kasha why the pasuk uses Eila, so Rashi says like this. In other words, he says by Shimshon it says, Vayera Shimshon the game at Timnos. So that Shimshon went down to Timnos. And Rashi asks this kasha. What Rashi means to say is, Shagidei Shemagdim liyashev stira zubshem, because of Eila. Rashi is telling us that by me answering the contradiction in these two psukim, that will answer the real kasha we have here. And what's the answer? The ma'acha shebeYehuda nemer lo shnei l'timnosa. By Yehuda it says he went up to Timna. By Shimshon it says Vayera Timnos, he went down. Harei sheval korchach tzorach leimer. So we have to say shebeshipu ahar oisa yesheves. Since one place it says up and one says down, you have to say it was in the middle. Eidon l'makan, the Eidon l'makan. They were going up from one side and going down from the other side. Basically, there are two ways to get to Timna. That's what we see from the contradiction. And that will answer the pasuk why that will answer the kasha why the pasuk here says that people told her that he's going up. Now that we have a hechrech, From the fact that we have this stira, we have to say one is going up and one two ways there. So now that we know there are two ways going to Timno, but there you could go from the top of the mountain down, you could go from down up. So that takes away the kasha. Why people told her your father-in-law is going up, and the Torah brings it. So the Torah is medayik that they spoke and they said going up. Now we understand because that's negated to what they were telling her. What were they telling her? That you have a way, your father-in-law is going, and you could meet him. Now, since they had two ways to get to Timno, how would you know which way he's going? So they had to tell her he's going on the way up. By this stress that's going up, which way is going? Is going this way from down up. So she'll be able to meet him. So the answer why it says Eila is because it's negated to what they were telling her. They were telling her we're to meet Yehuda, and they were telling her he's going up. But how do we know that there are two ways, which answers the kasha why it says going up? That's because there's a stira. So the stira is just an introduction to understand why it says here that they told her he's going up. So that's why and understand why Rashi doesn't pick the other answer that the Gemara gives, that there were two cities called Timno. The Tiritz Abeis should be Gemara, the second Teretz in the Gemara. Them is the pasuk, like we said before. Rashi is not interested here mainly to answer the contradiction. Okay, now like we said before, the one that's learning this pasuk has no kasha about the other pasuk. He doesn't even know the other pasuk. Elo, Rashi is trying to answer as hadiyuk v'loshen eila nemrokan. He's trying to answer just why it says Eila here. To explain why it says Eila is only because, like we said before, if you're going to give the answer that you could have two ways. One, it was in the middle of the mountain, you could go up and you could go down. So that answers why there is that shot, and that answer in the stira answers why here it says Eila. Since it was in the middle of a mountain, you could go in two ways. This explains why they had to hint and tell Tomar which way he's going. And by the way, the Rebbe says, but Sof Kosov, Rasha answers the stira here. He's not that's not his point. His point is to answer the kasha of but he does answer the stira. That's why if you look in Shaftin, Rasha doesn't say the stira there, doesn't ask the stira, doesn't answer it. And the Chura over there is the place where you should answer it, because there we know this pasuk. But the bottom line is, whatever reason, Rashi already answered it here for other reasons, because he wanted to answer the word Elo. But since he answered that, he doesn't have to answer the stira over there. So that's only answered if you say it was in the middle of the mountain. And if the answer that there were two timnos, you could also answer the same thing. The two timnos, she had to tell which timna to go. If they would tell her, your father-in-law is going to Timna, but there are two Timnas, you have to know which way. So the Rebbe says no. According to the Tzvara, there were two Timnas. This won't be so answered. The EF Shalemer, Loshen, Leimer, Shaloshen, Eila Timnos, Bol, Ramas, Leidia. You cannot say that they use the Loshen. Eila, I mean, is to teach us and tell us that they said Eila to tell us you should know which Timna is going. And it seems like one Timna was on top and one Timna was on the bottom, the two Timnas, and they would say, then maybe they said Eila Timnosa to tell you she should realize which Timna is going to. So you could answer saying two Timnas, and we understand why they said Eila, because they had to tell her which one is going, the one that's on top. So he says, the Rebbe says no. Because number one, if you want to show which city it is, the way to say which one it is, if one is on top, one is on the bottom, you don't say go up. The difference is only go up or go down. Kim, Kishanemet is another place by a different city. There's Beis Cher and Tachten, Beis Cher and Elyon. So that's how you say. So if they would want to tell her that the one on top, you say, go to Beis Cher and Elyon. Go here, you say, go to Beis Timna Elyon. That's the way you say it. That's the way the names of the cities are also. But you don't say a top and the bottom. So the other places we find that when one city is on the top, one city on the bottom, you refer to it, this is the top one, this is the bottom one. Because but not you say go, just by saying go up or go down. Based the second story, since the one that was telling it to her, just gave the name, that's all. Mashme shelo yamoyin l'smokim l'sofik. Is mashme that there was no place to, they didn't tell her which timna. Is mashme that it's not because there was a sofik of another timna. Because only one was close, and when they say going to timna, like when you live in a city, close to a certain city, and you say, go to a place, like I would say, go to Fort Lauderdale, and there's another Fort Lauderdale, a place someplace far, and you don't have to say, go to Fort Lauderdale. No, everyone knows it means this one. So here, by the fact that they didn't give any other simonim, just by saying go to Timna, you would know which one it is. But you don't have to say go up. He's going up in order to tell us which Timna it is. And another things, if there are two Timnas, for sure they were not close one to another. If they're not close, there's no need. See, I don't know exactly what the difference in Beis and Gimel. That since there are two and they're not close to each other, so there's no need to be media to which one he means by saying Eila. Because normally, if you say, like I said before, you say go to the city. If it's close to you is that city, you mean that city. You don't have to give any. But so this is what he says, Gimel. What he said in Beis is that we see it from the words of the person. That he didn't say any. So aside from the words of the guy who said, he said Timna, going Timna, so that shows that there's no suffix which one it is. And also, since they were not close, because you wouldn't have two cities close the same name, so since it was not close, so there's not even a need to do it. Not only from the words, that's probably the difference in Beis and Gimel. Beis is only from the words of the guy who said it, we understand that they didn't have to say which one it is. And certainly you don't have to, because without the guy saying it, without the fact that he said that Lashon, because if it's far away, you don't have to say, we understand clearly that when you're saying go to the city, we mean the one that's close. Okay, so in Leibel we understand the Shaila. We understand why Rasha brings the Kashas here. We understand why Rasha doesn't bring the other truths of the Gemara. After all, it's still not completely good. The Esem Zach that Rasha says that Timna was in the middle of a mountain, that doesn't sound right. But not because of what it says here, it says there, just the Esem Zach. How could it be? It's not so rare to build a city in the middle of a mountain. And he explains why. We understand some people build a city on top of a mountain. Why? The Hainu. Even though to build a city on top of a mountain is very hard. It's very hard to bring up the material for building the city. To work on the top of a mountain is very hard. If a city is on top of a mountain, it won't do such good business. Business you do with other cities. But if your city is on top of a mountain, who goes there? Who's going to go there? It's very hard to go walk up on top of the mountain. So it means that not too many people are going to come here. So if not too many people are going to come here, why would a person build a city on top of a mountain? So Bechlau, why would people, it's hard to build there, and it's hard to do business there. Why would people do it? Sometimes we forego these problems. People choose to build dafke on top of a mountain for protection from an invading army. The best place to have a city on top of a mountain. It'll always have the upper hand against a war against the enemy that will fight. The enemy is going to be down, and you're up. You always have the upper hand. So sometimes people would choose to build a city on top of the mountain. And then we understand, or some people will build it at the bottom of the mountain. Even though it's not so easy to protect it. But because it's a better place to make business and it's easier to build. So some people will do that. So we have reason for some people to build a city on top of the mountain, sometimes the bottom. But to build a city in the middle of the mountain, then there's no real reason to build it. The building and the development is not so good because it's not on the bottom. It's after all higher up, so you still have problems of schlepping the stuff and people not coming there. Messiah doesn't accomplish Bagabe protection from the enemy, because the enemy could come from the top and you'll be in the bottom. So what's the purpose? Why would people do that? Different on the top of a mountain, the houses are one on top of another. We see that different places in Israel. That's not such a convenient thing. So why in the world would people, if you build on top of a mountain, so you have on top of the mountain all this people, all the houses. But if in middle, you have to build a house on top. It's somewhat mizrach to do that. So we ask a kasha, hey, being a city in the middle of the mountain is not a common thing. So it's more sense to say, we would have said, it's easier to say, that Bemis Timno was on top of the mountain. How we're going to answer the two contradictions, we find one place up and one place down. If it's on top of the mountain, it's always you have to go up. So you could say Litzdodi, which means that one place where it says up, going up means one thing, and one place where it says going down means something else. Because each time it means according to what the Torah is trying to tell us. Let me explain like this. You could say like this. Loshen Eile Yehuda, when it says Vayal by Yehuda, Pirusha Aliyah Kipshut, it means Kipshut, he went up, the Gashmi. Because Bemis, the city, was on top of the mountain. So then when it says here he went up, it's no problem. He went up the mountain. You can't say it means Baruchnias. By Yehuda, you can't say it means Baruchnias, like we said before, because the pasuk here is not talking what the Torah says, it's talking what the people said. When the people said he's going up to Timnah, they didn't mean Baruchnias, they didn't know. So it can mean Baruchnias. So by Yehuda, it means very Kipshut, that he learned went up, Gashmis, it was on top of the mountain, he went up. The Loshen by Yered, the Shimshon, it says going down by Shimshon. Where the Torah there is talking about Shimshon, Torah says Shimshon went down. So when the Torah is telling us what happened to Shimshon, yeah, the Torah knows what's going to happen to him. And the Torah meant going down Baruchnias. And we would have said that's such a pshat. And there's a mile in this pshat over the pshat that was in the middle of a mountain, because it makes no sense to build a city in the middle of the mountain. So B'meila, what is the pshat here? We could learn that it was on top of the mountain, that some people build a city on top of a mountain. And Shimshon and the Yehuda went up, pushed the mountain. That's what's available. And by Shimshon, when it says Vayered, is not talking, he's really going on the same city, going up. But it says Vayered because Beruchnis, he went down. And there he could say it. Because it's not someone talking to the Torah. The posting is not telling us what someone said to Shimshon. The Torah is telling us what about Shimshon. So Vayered could mean he went down Beruchnis. But in order to hint why Rasha does not accept this pshat, and Rasha still like actions have to say that the pshat is that it was in the middle of the mountain, in spite that it's not common. Rasha adds with Shimshon. We asked the kasha, why does Rasha, when you ask the contradiction, it says here it says Vayal Eile, and there it says by Shimshon it says Vayed Shimshon. So they asked the Shaila, why does the Rasha have to give in the introduction by Shimshon it says? He should just say it says Vayed Shimshon, and we know it's talking about Shimshon. Rasha adds the word by Shimshon, it says, when it says by Shimshon Yerida, it's not only in the specific posuk that Rasha brings Vayed Shimshon. Shows he talking the Parsha moving the Ruchni. There you could say it means Beruchni, because the posuk is telling us that Shimshon went down. By Shimshon, when it says Vayed, it's not only in this posuk. Many times in the whole story, this Loshen is written there many times. You can't say every time it says the word Vayed, it means B'Shivas. Doesn't happen. But once the Torah could be Meramis. So since by Shimshon it says, and he quotes one posik, but he says you should know that it's B'chlal by Shimshon. So we must say Shemavave Kipshutei. It must mean Poshet. Shemokim Megurav Shel Shimshon Hoya B'rei Shahor. Shimshon lived on top of the mountain. B'chol Pam Sheholach Timna. Every time he's going to Timna Hoya B'Eifin Shel Yerida Gashmi Hor. It means he had to come down. So if Shimshon had to come down to Timna, and here by Yehuda we're saying it definitely means going up to Timna. The Nimtze Shemuchrach Leibel. Melo we have to say Shebeshepua Aharoy Yesheves. It must be middle of the mountain, even though it's a deich to say, but we must say. And the emes is, the Rebbe in a different order says, when the Gemara says one of the pshatim that there were Timno, Chodet Timna have, One is up and there's a middle, and one you have to go up, and not one. From one side you have to go down, and one side you have to go up. The Gemara there gives an example of a certain city which was in the middle of a mountain. So the Rebbe says, why does the Gemara give an example here? Maybe for this reason, because without an example, it's hard to say. So the Gemara says, no, we find it happens. It does happen. It's not common, it's rare, but it happens. So here also, it must be, we must say, because there's no other way to answer the contradiction. And since that's the only way to answer the contradiction, so now we know why it says here, Eila, because since from the contradiction, we understand that there were two ways to get to Timna, from up or down, and she wanted to meet Yehuda, so they had to tell her which way he's going. So they said he's going up. Oh, so she knew where to stop him, where to catch him. That on the way up, she would stop him and speak to him. This is the Pshat Rashi. The Minyonim had the Yena Shalteret Schapiro Rashi Lefanena. The Chassidus that's in this Rashi, Vayeroim is about Avidosh Kolech Lech, and the Yero for everyone in his Aveda is like this. Mavur b'Mokem Acher, it says in other places in Chassidus ala Posik on the Posik Mi Yala Bar Hashem. The game. Posik says who could go up on the mountain of Hashem. So on that Posik it says in Chassidus. Actually, it says in other Sfarim also. Shaveda Sa'odam Lokeina Yehudugmas Aliyah Bahar. Serving Hashem is like climbing a mountain. And Yudua, we know the Kasher Odam Etapis Ve'ila Ha'ora, when someone climbs a mountain, you can't stop in the middle of the going up. The Lamed Zmama B'Mokim Shapiro Shalor. You can't in the middle of the slant of the mountain, you're going up, you go up halfway and you stop there. You can't do that. Kikimat Minanim, that's almost impossible. If you stop, it's almost impossible, you won't fall. So what do you have to do? You have to come. If you start going and you're in the middle there, you can't stop. You got to go up. If you don't continue up, you'll fall. So then, and since Avedas Hashem is compared to a mountain climbing, so the same thing is when you're going up in Avedas Hashem, in the mountain of Hashem, that you always have to go higher, and that must be not only because a person should always get better. Every person always has to go higher and get better. But it's not only for that reason. Also to make sure you don't fall. See, according to the first thing is, if you don't go up, which is not good because you should be going higher. But if you don't go higher, you stay where you are. You're missing out going higher. But the Rebbe says, no, besides that, you're going to fall. What means Baruch is, you should never be satisfied with the aliyah, how high you came till now. Because stopping here and satisfied with the aliyah you had yesterday, and not going from a higher to next madrega, it'll bring you a yerida. So this is that the ayin of Avodas Hashem. By Chanukah we see that clearly, specifically. Shamhadim and Amhadrin says those are Amhadim and Amhadrin, which is what everybody is. First day you light one. Then you go higher every day you add one. The Gemara says the reason is because you always have to go higher with Kedesh, not to go down. Therefore, according to this, let's say the second day, you didn't add another one. So what's the problem? So you didn't go higher, you didn't add more. So he says no. It's not only that day you didn't add, you didn't go higher in Kedusha the day before. If you didn't add one the second day, you're missing. Why am I missing? I didn't do less than yesterday. Why am I missing with the yesterday? If you didn't do this hidur of adding another one, you're missing. You're missing Rabbi yesterday. Yesterday, the first day, to light one candle is the top hidur. There's nothing more mahudar. So yesterday you did the top hidur. Today, if you only lit one, you did like yesterday, but you didn't do the hidur. Same thing the third day. If you light two the third day, yesterday you did a hidur. Today you're doing the same thing yesterday, but today it's not a hidur. So you're missing Lagaba yesterday. Yesterday what you did was a hidur. Today not. If you want to do today with the same hidur of yesterday, you have to go up Makedesh. So here we see that if you don't go up higher, you go lower. Even if you're stopping and you're not doing less, you're not doing less than yesterday. Yesterday you did two, today you're doing two. He's still missing because yesterday the two was the hidur, today you're not. Now, This is hinted in Rashi. Rashi says, why does it say by Timno, one place going up and one place going down? Because it's the middle of the mountain. When we say about a mountain is going up. The middle of the mountain means in the middle of going up in Ruchnias. So what Rashi is saying, it's or going up or going down. There's no stopping. Nimnas, that when it comes to the middle of the mountain, nimnas ho'amide. You can't stop. You can't go normal. Rashi says when it's in the middle of the mountain, so it's up or down. So that's why in this posik teaches us that there is such a thing as the middle of the mountain, which is Merames. Mountain is Avedas Hashem, Miyalabar Hashem. And when you get to, there's a middle, and Rashi says the middle is going up or down. Because if you stop in the middle in Ruchnias, you're going to go down, unless you're going up. The latest Peretz Mashiach. And just like by Yehuda, when he went up in the mountain to Timna, which means in Ruchnias, he went up in Avedas Hashem. That brought that he gave birth to Peretz, and Peretz, that's Mashiach. And Peretz, because he was the great-great-grandfather of Mashiach. Shenemer, it says, Ola Peretz Lefnei by Mashiach, it says the Peretz, when the breaks through the borders, will come up. So just like over there by Yehuda, he went up the mountain. So brought the union of Mashiach, that he brought the child Peretz, and Peretz is going to be Mashiach. Every person in his Avedas Hashem, in his mountain, his specific mountain, Niske lekiyum hayud will be zeicher to the fulfillment of the promise. It says also a mountain. The Eibishter, the helpers will come up on the mountain of Tzion, lishvet es haresav, to judge haresav, v'hoisel Hashem amlucha. The Bias Mashiach, the king of the Leibel Mashiach will come. So this is a remes to the union that by a mountain, if you come to the middle of the mountain by Avedas Hashem, you can't stop and not go higher because you'll fall lower. Only Yerida, and you always have to go up. And it's connected to Chanukah, that we see by Chanukah, you always have to go higher. And if not only you didn't accomplish going higher, you didn't even reach the level that you reached yesterday. That means you went down in the level. That's how Hero we take from here. Okay. Okay. Like